Previously on No Dumb Idea.
That's
sick.
I was trying to give something Mad Max
like a Mad
inspired.
Max character. Yeah.
See, mine would be a big monster truck, but every wheel is replaced by like a beetle bug car. So it's just 4 cars.
I was thinking you were gonna say 4 monster trucks.
Mine would be like one of those big wheel bicycles, with the tiny little baby wheel in the back.
But the
wheels themselves have rockets attached to them to spin them in in a circle faster.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice. Mine would be 4 gimps instead of wheels.
Just ride people.
4 people.
And instead of being at a car, and be at home in my room with them.
with Lightning McQueen.
Instead of in the Mad Max desert, it would be now.
No dumb idea. No dumb idea. No dumb idea. No dumb idea.
Wow. What a crazy last episode. Wouldn't y'all agree?
Whew. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good. I think it was important, to compare all those various
catch
apocalyptos.
Oh yeah, I'm just glad we're out of that wasteland. The way that we did it was pretty intense.
That was intense. I'm so happy to be to be out of there.
Yeah. So hi, welcome everybody to the No Dumb Idea podcast. It's a podcast that uses pop culture and comic books, movies, TV show, video games, all that stuff, and kind of pulls dumb ideas from that, turns them into game shows, into improv scenarios, and little reviews. I'm Gibbledang here. You're the host of this week's episode, and who am I joined with?
That'd be me, GymleaderNate. Back again, much to your chagrin.
Chagrin.
And it's me, Dala, filled up with diet soda and playing some Burnout Revenge.
Ooh, nice. No weed? You haven't smoked a bunch of weed and filled your belly with Diet Dr. Peep?
I'm still looking for someone to join me. That's the problem.
Diet Dr. Peep?
Or Meep. Diet Dr. Meep, actually.
Oh, okay.
So it's funny. That's a reference to Smiling Friends, the newest episode of Smiling Friends.
Yeah.
That's I see.
I
was very lost.
I'm sorry. It's funny because this character reminds me of you a lot, GymleaderNate. Because it's this guy that's like, do you want to come over and hang out and fill our bellies with Diet Dr. Meep and smoke weed and play Burnout 2 on the PS2 or whatever? And,
okay, fair enough. That does sound a lot like me.
That's all you do.
My hobbies.
Just replace Burnout with Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just with Magic. It fits perfectly at that point. Yep.
But we're at a new week, a new episode, and I feel like enough time has passed since the season finale of X-Men '97. The X-Men revival series from Marvel Animation that came out. I don't remember when it came out. I think
it's like this year.
April. Early April?
Yeah.
April 2014.
2014.
2024.
2024.
2014. The first episodes came out 2024, and honestly, banger of a show.
Right out the gate.
Right off the bat, it's been insane. And I feel like it's given a lot of people like different perspectives on the X-Men, different perspectives and different perspectives on different characters that aren't just Wolverine, because Wolverine is very much oversaturated X-Men character that's the main one that everyone thinks about.
Dominated the face of the X-Men
for the last 15 years. No, actually 24 years.
20?
24.
Yeah, I was about to say.
because
all of the ones when we were growing up, those are all so Wolverine focused.
the X-Men movie came out in 2000, so yeah, since 2000. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, speaking of X-Men and what's the connection, and we may have gone over this, in our previous X-Men themed episodes, but what are your guys' connection to like the X-Men franchise, the 90s or the animated show, video games, all of that stuff? What's your guys' kind of ties to it?
I know for me, like I was more on the side of the people who like reverse got into X-Men, where the X-Men, like I watched a little bit of the shows, but mainly it was the movies that like made me go back and watch and actually pay attention to the shows after I saw the first movie in 2000.
Yeah.
And then I paid attention to the shows after that, and then the shows made me want to actually investigate who these characters were in comic books, because weirdly enough, back then my favorite character was this was a little later, but my favorite character became Spike.
Oh.
And then I weirdly just liked Spike just because I don't know.
Well,
I liked more simple mutant ideas.
But also, I think he was the audience surrogate in X-Men Evolution. I want to say.
Evolution, the series,
Each like team always has like a audience like
audience
surrogate,
insert.
and that was 100% Spike in Evolution.
100% Spike.
I remember being super disappointed with the way they portrayed him in X-Men 3.
That wasn't
him.
The Last Stand.
That
wasn't him.
That's a different.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, my trauma's
but
killed.
it's funny. It's funny because
That's fine then. That sounds amazing. I'm so glad it's not him.
people would be equally disappointed by who that mutant was supposed to be, which is someone named like Kid Omega, who's like this psychic energy construct dude,
Like, not even
who they
close to
turned
the
into
powers.
Quills.
Just Bone
To be
Torpedo
fair,
Man.
though, I don't think I know.
Not
or
even
ever
Bone
heard
Torpedo,
anyone
Quill Man.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone
Quillman.
say anything positive though about Kid Omega. Like I don't even know if there's fans of Kid Omega to be offended.
So the very first person I started a podcast with, they were
like
the
the
biggest
biggest
Kid
Kid
Omega
There's a
fan
one
that I
fan
fucking
then.
knew. Dude, they had done like cosplays, and they were like a 14, like at the
Okay.
time, like we were
Okay.
both like 14, 15. Like
Yeah.
this dude, it was just like Kid Omega all the way. Oh my god,
That's
they
hilarious.
fucked him up in X-Men 3: The Last Stand. I hate that movie.
It's one of those things it's just like why? Yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, go on, keep going, Gym Leader Nate. Sorry to.
That's about
tangent
it,
that.
really. No, but that was about it. I don't know. I mainly connected with the movies, and then I never really got a chance to play any of the video games, other than a brief dabble of the side scroller. At like an arcade, I believe it
Oh,
was.
nice.
Oh yeah,
The beat 'em up?
X-Men Arcade.
Yeah,
Such
the
a
beat
good-
'em up. So like, that was really the only X-Men game that I had experience with. Everything else was really through the cartoons and movies.
Okay.
But
You,
you,
Dala?
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 But yeah, for me, I mean, I feel like it's funny. I'm trying to think of what the first X-Men thing was that I experienced, and it was just always been all encompassing in my life. Like my older brothers. I mean, I watched the show, the titular '97 show, or the original, whatever, animated series.
The
what it's really
92,
called.
97 show.
Yeah, that's why I was like, it's not really '97, but yeah, or like whatever. But that, I've read the comics, like. Yeah, I just like I could probably honestly talk about like a lot of it, but like honestly, like all the movies, games are still played. X-Men Legends, like growing up, were like the ones that came out. I had like Spider-Man and the X-Men, which is like kind of on the SNES, which is kind of like it's like half a good
think
game.
we
Huh?
tried to play that. We tried to
probably
play
did.
that together.
I still have my like the copy like from childhood. It's cool because you play as like you play
Spider-Man and X-Men?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's like all the popular characters, like all the characters I like from Marvel the most, at least.
Yeah, fair.
It's just like you play as like there's like 5 X-Men and Spider-Man, and you could choose from, and they each have like different gameplay, and like some of them have fun games and some have really crap games. So it's like I never beat them. They're really hard. Oh, and then like fucking just, I mean, I never played X-Men versus Street Fighter or any of those, but I did play Marvel versus Capcom, especially 2 a lot.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I mean, it's the same characters just ported over essentially, and the art's just so good, music's so good.
It is so interesting that like Marvel versus Capcom, the first couple of games, they already had bangers. Like I don't know, it's just the X-Men franchise really has had like knockout characters since the 90s.
Yeah.
Or since fucking forever. But
really.
it's because I remember the games having like you could play as Cable, I think maybe Strife, Blob, or like fucking Marrow. Like you just play as like hella random characters.
Yeah.
That's an interesting selection.
Yeah, they have like Silver Samurai. They have 2 Wolverines, which is fun. Just one's Bone Claw, one's like because it's the 90s at the time.
Of course, I have 2 Wolverines.
Yeah,
It's like when the anime fighters have like every version of the main
Goku.
character in every mode they've ever gone through. Like
50 Gokus just versus
exactly
like
50
Vegeta.
Narutos in the Ultimate Fighter games alongside 50 different Sasuke's.
But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I grew up with the movies as well. They were fucking good, and obviously some are bad. Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the comics I've been on a mad mission to read through. It's pretty much in order, all of them. Right now I'm at Fall of the Mutants, which is before Inferno. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Nice.
Love me some X-Men.
Yeah. I grew up with I guess I grew up in the right time of like pop culture and stuff because there's the X-Men animated series, Spider-Man, Batman. I definitely like the Batman series the most, but like I did watch X-Men growing up.
I agree.
Like in my childhood, I remember playing, and I might have talked about this like previously, but the X-Men Legends games, which I played as a kid and actually replayed earlier this year, or even like 2 or 3 months ago. Bangers, so good. I probably started playing them the moment that the X-Men game or the X-Men show premiered.
Yeah, as I was saying, I think it was around that same time.
X-Men Zeitgeist, who I think Zeitgeist is an X-Men, but anyway,
what's his power?
He throws up fire, or throws up acid.
He makes print come to life.
No, he throws up acid. Yeah,
he throws up acid.
He throws up acid, and his name is Zeitgeist.
Yeah, actually, he was played by he was
in the movie
played by Bill Skarsgård in Deadpool 2. Anywho, you look like you remember him. Anywho, yeah, I grew up.
The name is baffling. Sorry.
Grew up playing X-Men Legends. I read some random X-Men books growing up. But it was something where like I never realized how heavy and how like how much like gravitas the stories actually had, and how much they had to do with like real life like civil rights and social justice and whatnot. I never realized that honestly until I got like just way older, because I always knew that they were like an allegory for civil rights, but I guess the older I got and the more that I realized, the world that I lived in, that I'm like, oh man, these stories have a lot more like depth, and I think these might be the kind of like Marvel characters that I lean towards now at least. But
I saw a post that made like kind of a comment about that, where it's like people, I guess, complaining about Morph in the new series. They're like, well, like maybe X-Men became more liberal when. And it just keeps going back in time, all the way to like or maybe they've always just been liberal, because it's like they started off as MLK and Malcolm X.
Yeah,
and
literally.
It's funny too, because like a little tangent, like on the Weekly Planet podcast, like James or Mr. Sunday, he said something along the lines where like, I love how good this show is and how like quote unquote like woke it is, to the point where like. It's so good, no one can even complain about any of the other shit going on. It's just a really good show. No one can complain about Morph or this or that. It's like, it's just a good show.
I love how heavy-handed it is, honestly. I think it feels so good just to have the characters actually, like, speak their mind, like, as things are happening.
But I guess, yeah, the older I get, the more that I not identify with the series, but the more that I appreciate their struggles or the stories that the X-Men go through, the older I get, because I feel like they have a lot more context and relevancy to like the world we live in now, constantly racist and xenophobic world. But so I've seen all the fucking live action movies, whatnot. I haven't gotten into the comic books yet. That is something that I want to do, but it is a lot easier to watch everything that's been adapted. But yeah, I love the X-Men. Funny enough, even going back to like my Minimate collection and the fact that, I'm a Minimate customizer, the very first Minimates that I ever bought were Cable and Bishop.
X-Men?
It was a
Nice.
2-pack. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
That's cool.
I remember buying them and being like, whoa, these guys are sick. Who are these guys? And then looking from there, even then, that kind of got me into comic books in general, being like, okay, Cable and Bishop, who are these? Oh, they're X-Men? What? I thought
That's
X-Men was
scary.
only
From the
Wolverine.
future.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what better time than now to get into our X-Men 97 review / retrospective. Why don't we start with the first episode? Well, I should say the first 2 episodes. They premiered back to back. However, at the beginning of 2024. I'm just gonna breeze through a quick. So what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna breeze through quick the Wikipedia summaries, and we're going to just kind of talk about the episodes. Give our thoughts on it. Make our way through the season.
Snicked.
I guess right off the bat, I wanted to rewatch the original series before we got into this. Not just the review, but X-Men 97. Because although I watched it as a kid, I don't remember what happened. And honestly, it is hard for me to kind of get into it again. Something about the animation. Although that's just me. I do want to get
Also, the
back into it though.
storylines. It's not as like this show is like much better.
And I think knowing that there's 5 seasons that I'm gonna have to catch up on makes it a little more like, fuck. And knowing that knowing that half of those seasons were low budget because they like slashed their budget and exported it to like different companies also makes me like, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
But the first episode of the season opens up with Xavier is presumed dead. I think with the context of the original show and the comic, you actually know that he's off-world. He's in the Shi'ar Empire doing some other fucking shit, whatever. And that causes basically Cyclops to take up the de facto leader role of the X-Men. And it opens up with him. Jean Grey is pregnant with his son. And he's basically trying to kind of figure out how to be a leader while at the same time there's this not resurgence, but there's this uprising of a group called the Friends of Humanity, who are basically like mutant, or not mutant, like anti-mutant supremacists, if that makes sense. Mutant racists. They're mutant racists.
Right.
And it turns out that they're using like stolen Sentinel technology to attack mutants and commit hate crimes on mutants. And so the team manages to figure all of this out. They get back to the X Mansion in the first episode, and it turns out that at the end of the first episode, Magneto has been given total control of both the X Mansion and the X-Men. And episode 2 kind of picks up with the fallout of that. The team, Cyclops struggling to realize like, oh, why didn't Xavier want me to be the leader? Why did he give everything? Why did he put his whole will and testament underneath Magneto? And at the same time, you see Magneto try earnestly to be a better person in order to fulfill like Xavier's like last wish, which was to, you know, to unite humans and mutants and to stop, you know, all like the war between them. And so, you know, once you see this emergence of Magneto trying to be a better person, you kind of get there's like a lot of pushback from the government, and they basically tried to hold Magneto on trial for his crimes that he had done while he was like this mutant terrorist. Although he's actively trying to you know, make up for those crimes.
Try to turn over a new leaf.
Yeah. And in the process, you know, in the process of Magneto going on trial, a mutant supremacist named the Executioner attempts to shoot Magneto with this bullet that would remove all of his powers, but alternatively, Storm jumps in his place and defends him. Storm loses all of her powers in the second episode, and Magneto retaliates by basically taking the United Nations up into space and saying, "Hey, leave me the fuck alone. Like, I'm trying to do better. Like, just stop with this."
Yeah, this random small like council of the United Nations.
Mm-hmm. You know, and at the same time, Cyclops and Jean Grey, you know, their baby starts to be born, and lo and behold, you know, they give birth to a boy named Nathan. Well, he wasn't named Nathan, but I guess they named him
dumb
Nathan.
name.
Yeah, damn, he was born with a name
What a
already.
silly little name.
He was born with a
Jeez.
name tag.
Us Nathans are. We're always born with a name tag that just says Nathan.
That's how you know
That's how
you're
they know.
destined.
But, you know, basically the UN kind of pardoned Magneto for his crimes, and they're just like, look, this guy's trying to do better. Let's let him lead the X-Men and, you know, just try to turn over a new leaf. And so Storm leaves the X-Men because she's like, look, I need to go figure my shit out. I got a lot of stuff to figure out now that I'm human. I don't have any powers. You know, the episode ends with, it is very bittersweet. You know, Storm's gone. Jean Grey just gave birth, and Magneto was pardoned. But right at the very end, the doorbell rings, and in comes a Jean Grey clone by the name of Madeline Pryor, and that's the end of the first two episodes.
Real quick, sorry.
I know. Yeah.
Madeline was the clone that came in, or was it Jean? And Madeline was the one he was married with.
It was Jean.
It was
okay.
Jean that came in.
Sorry, I thought I was like, did I mishear that, or because I was like, in the comics, it's
it
that
was
way.
Jean who came back, and then
Yeah.
it gets revealed that the Jean they thought they knew has been a clone this entire time.
Okay, because in the comics,
So
it's like
that
a big
reveals
thing.
in next episode.
Yeah, so we can get to that later. But yeah, first two
Okay.
episodes.
First two
Yeah.
episodes, right off the bat, really strong, really fucking, really moving, really powerful. This is Magneto's show, right off the
Yep.
bat. This is the Magneto show.
It is.
For the first two episodes, or like in the whole
I guess
show?
just in general, not like the
It's
show's
set-
about him,
I don't
but
think
this
so.
is his
So, like,
show.
Not that it's not, but I think this is
I
like
think
the
it sets a tone that he is like a major
Yeah.
part of just the future of the X-Men.
I think this is specifically the not Wolverine show. It's like if let's give every
Yeah, kind of.
fucking character that has not been in a spotlight.
Well,
A
it's like we
spotlight.
know it's
That's-
like spoiler alert. We know it's not Morph's show. You know what I mean?
I guess,
like,
or
some
Sunspot.
characters do get very small to
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
spot. Like,
But I've heard
So-
from plenty of Nightcrawler fans. Like I like Nightcrawler. It's not my favorite, but I've heard plenty of people say Nightcrawler is my favorite. Sick. They finally did him well, like in something. So it's like, you know, there's a lot of these like side, like Scott. There's people there for Scott. He's gotten so much shit.
I maintain
the
that
first episode.
Nightcrawler is probably one of the best done
So
parts of the X-Men
Well-
movies, but that's another conversation.
yeah, we'll get to Nightcrawler when he comes out, but I definitely think that Scott, So these
Yeah,
first two
this is the Scott
episodes are gonna
episode.
have a lot of people,
For the first
a lot of people loving Cyclops. Like, holy shit. I think he definitely gets. Well, he's one of the best characters in this series for sure. Like, we could say the best characters like as we go through episode, but like episode by episode. But you know, in the first two, it's definitely Magneto and Cyclops. You know, you get Magneto's pathos, and you get the badass like action from Cyclops. You
Cyclops.
know, super
Fucking-
cool stuff.
What is it? Zero jumps from the plane using his optic blast,
yeah.
which somehow doesn't
Yeah.
snap his neck. It's like that.
Yeah,
So
I
cool.
love it.
Okay, so
love
my
it.
my
I
head
thank God physics don't have to exist.
Well, no, what I'm
Yeah.
thinking for my head canon, what I've kind of realized, Cyclops' beams, his eyes, lead to a different dimension. You know, like the punch dimension, or like this force, right? So I'm thinking when he's like shooting his ray down, instead of it just like knocking back into fucking like his neck and fucking breaking his neck,
Yeah.
it's just going back into his eyes, which are the portal, and just like shooting back into this nothing. You know what I mean?
Then wouldn't it not slow him down?
That's the
Yeah,
thing,
there you
Dom. He needs to slow down. I mean, he has real good neck
He just-
fucking muscles. That's all.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's fine that it doesn't make sense
No, yeah,
because
It makes it
X-Men.
cooler.
They're
yeah,
fucking.
the fact. I mean,
all powers.
the entire fact that
his
his eyes aren't just lasers and that they are portals to a dimension of pure kinetic force, like that. Like, it's so much more complicated than just he shoots lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah.
I will say Jean Grey also is like, they kind of bring up, because the Summers family basically is like a big center point of this whole entire show. I feel like Jean Grey is also a big focus. And they also bring up in like in the early episodes, I think it's like episode 2, but what she's talking to Storm, and she's like her and like Scott are trying to figure out like how they can like exist as people beyond having to save the world, and if it's possible. And it's like, and they're just like wondering if the day will come if they can like actually live instead of having to constantly fight for others to live. So it sets a really interesting tone for Jean Grey's like arc.
Well, it's, I guess before that, you know, we'll get back to the Jean Grey, because that's gonna lead into the next episode. One thing I wanted to say about this one was, there's a lot of like social commentary, like I'd said, about like civil rights, about, you know, racism. Something I noticed in the second episode, Magneto's trial, there's a point where the X-Men have to stop like the Friends of Humanity, all these like human supremacists from breaking into the basically the building that the hearing's at. It looks very much similar to like footage from the fucking January 6th like insurrection, which
It did, honestly. I feel like that might have
there's-
been on purpose. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
it
sure,
definitely was on
100%.
purpose, because there's a lot more like political imagery like that we'll get into, that I think I don't know, I think it was well done. I think it was very smartly used. God, just this whole series is very cunning. So episode 3, is this Inferno?
Yeah.
No, the episode 3 is called Fire Made Flesh, which the story is
It's from Inferno.
It is Inferno.
Oh
Nice.
my gosh, he had his X-Men power. It started activating.
The Belch.
Ooh, that'd be a good one. That'd be a good one.
I'm sure it already exists. So,
Probably.
episode 3, it picks up with this collapsed Jean Grey being examined by Beast. Beast is also examining, I want to say, Madeline Pryor. You know, I might get the logistics of everything wrong, but basically, Beast is able to determine that the Jean Grey that we thought that we've been following since, I don't know, maybe season 4 of the 92 series has actually been a clone. She was swapped out at some point in time and has been replaced by a clone that was most likely created by Mr. Sinister. I forgot what happens because of this, but I know that, what is it? The real Jean Grey is in a coma at this point. She's just like, do you remember what happens? I can't remember what exactly
in the
happened.
show.
I
Or
thought it was
in
in
the
response to
comics?
her. I thought it was in response to her trying to read other Jean's mind.
That's what it was. She tries to read other.
She passes out.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
when
gotcha,
she's
gotcha.
passed out, when she's all passed out, that's when whatchamacallit, the Jean clone, Madeline Pryor, she kind of awakens because of Mr. Sinister, who it's revealed that Sinister was the one who created the clone. The clone awakens and starts to fuck with everybody's mind, use her psychic Jean Grey powers to send everybody in the X-Mansion into a kind of like hellscape.
And she transforms
To the
Yeah,
Goblin
she transforms
Queen.
into the Goblin
into the Goblin
Queen.
Queen. Yeah.
Which, in the comic
Very
books, they had
briefly.
a lot more of a lead up. So in this show, it's like, oh, she's a Goblin Queen, I guess. Like, okay, like we're like goblins, ghouls, okay. But in the comic books, this episode was like a comic event. Spider-Man, the Avengers, I think, had to deal with it. Once the X-Men realize that it's Mr. Sinister's doing, Magneto, Cyclops, I think, and Morph, they venture to, I want to say Mr. Sinister's like laboratory to confront Madeline and to have her stop all of the psychic shenanigans or whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, big psychic battle ensues. One thing that I thought was great was that once they arrive and talk to Madeline Pryor, she quotes Lucifer. She quotes Satan. She's like, "I know not what I do," which I think is straight up like a biblical reference.
You're talking about the Lucifer
And
X-Men
so,
villain, right? The one that crippled
Uh-huh.
Xavier? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, I will say it's not Lucifer. That's Jesus.
Oh, that
so you
cripples Xavier?
Yeah, as they were, I believe it was as he was carrying the cross and was being stoned through the streets as he was carrying the cross to the hill.
Oh, I see, yeah.
He said up to God, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do."
I guess it's like a reference to that.
Yeah. So interesting enough, she's
Jesus,
sarcastically
actually. Yeah, no.
referencing Jesus.
Yeah, it makes sense. If she's like the devil incarnate, then it's like, yeah, I would tease and curse the Lord.
Basically, the episode ends. They bonk her real good. Jean Grey comes out and says, "Enough." She awakens from her psychic coma and basically tells Madeline Pryor through through the astral plane, like, "Look, you got to become your own person. Mr. Sinister is a piece of shit, but you got to make your own life and kind of go from here."
With a name like that, I'm surprised.
Yeah, who would have guessed?
Unfortunately, prior she had already given Nathan to Mr. Sinister for a brief period of time.
Oh, so this was a plot point that I missed. Madeline Pryor
Kidnap Nathan.
She kidnaps Nathan and takes her to the Mr. Sinister's base, which is why the X-Men went to go get Nathan back and confront Madeline. So, at the end, do you guys want to take over? Because this episode I didn't really... I think I might have seen this one once.
Well,
Same.
so basically Madeline has already taken Nathan. She gave him to Sinister, and then they get to the Sinister's base and confront her. So after Jean calms her and convinces her to be her own person, by the time they get to Sinister, he's already infected Nathan with the technovirus to try and turn him immortal. And then after driving Sinister away, they realize like Nathan's slowly like mutating with the technovirus, and there's nothing they can do because the tech's too advanced. So Bishop's like, you know what? I'll take him to the only place where someone has technology that can help him, the future. And they just so happen in that same episode to finish fixing Bishop's tech to go back to the future. So Bishop opens the portal, and they give Nathan to him and send him into the future, hoping that Bishop will be able to save him.
I have a quick request.
Yeah.
For
Thank you.
Editing for whoever's editing. Can you every time GymleaderNate says the future, can you cut it out and post in anytime Bishop says the future? Oh no, from the old show. I'm joking.
I was
that's
hoping
his
it would be
whole thing.
Squidward going
Future. All right, edit in that over Bishop, and then take the Bishop audio and put it over GymleaderNate. Sorry. Every time you heard it, I kept hearing the future. I was just like, God damn it.
Yeah, so that was friggin' episode 3. Oh yeah, I also have. I mean, I have it pulled up here to like help me as well as we talk about it.
Episode 3 is good, but I feel like it's one of those ones that I just kind of there's like a lot of action. It's not as much.
Yeah,
things.
it's mostly like one big fight.
Yeah. So it's like.
And then, but at the very end is when Forge finds Storm. Storm is out, kind of trying to find herself and traveling, and she is
It's like the
approached
after
by
credits kind of.
Yeah, by a gentleman at a bar, and it turns out to be Forge, also an X-Man.
So now it's a good time to kind of get into the episode. Yeah. Third episode, it was still really good. It was a breeze over the actual comic book arc that it was influenced by, which I wish they would have spent more time on, because it would have been cool to see the whole New York go to hell instead of just the X-Mansion. But, it makes sense. They do that a lot with, like, X-Men stories in this season, is just kind of condense them, have them, they get the most important bits out of it, and then they keep going. I think that this episode does a great job of showing just what kind of sacrifices parents have to make for their kids, while also, like, dealing with the confusion between, like, Scott and Madeline and Jean, like, who's the real mother of his child,
Right, and the fact that, like, who
does he really love?
Made a relationship with both of them because he has no idea how long Jean Grey has been replaced with her clone.
Mm-hmm. And even in the scene where they're just like, all right, like, we got to give Nathan up. Like, it's like Dala had said earlier, a big part of the season, like, is on the backs of, like, of the Summers big time, and you see how much, like, of a family they are and how much they, like, stand together. Yeah, I think this episode definitely did a good job showing the struggle of fucking having to give up your son to time.
Yeah, it's like it's also crazy. It's also just like the Summers experience, just kind of experienced tragedy after tragedy as a family, and it's like right away, the second that they get their son, like the second they meet him, they immediately have to give him up, and he's like ripped out of their hands by fate. And it's like it's so weird because everything they try to do seems to be like a little bit like I don't know, Sisyphean. Like they get the boulder up the hill and it just rolls back down. And that's also kind of the theme of the X-Men in general. Like, it seems like they get close to bridging that gap between humanity and mutants, and then everything gets set right back.
The Juggernaut
they
comes
rolling
that back down.
They almost get reminded that nothing ever changed.
Yeah.
All right, episode 4. This is the what is it, Motendo and Life Death.
Yeah.
So this is like it's a filler episode.
Yeah.
It is a filler episode.
It's a filler. But you know what? It is an entertaining filler episode.
Yeah.
Basically,
it helps set up some stuff too.
it's Jubilee's 18th birthday, and Magneto says the X-Men can't go celebrate at an arcade or whatever. And so,
Best
you know,
retard.
Jubilee goes up to her room angrily, and, you know, I guess something we should have mentioned was in the first 2 episodes, the X-Men encounter this new mutant, pun intended, named Sunspot, who's, his name's Robert DaCosta. He's like a Brazilianaire who's like trying
Nice.
to cover his tracks on being a mutant, and you know he doesn't want to accept that he's a mutant. And Jubilee kind of takes a shining to him, and there's like a will they won't they throughout the first like 4 episodes.
You know, sorry, just to go off that, it's interesting is I feel like he's set up to be the like ride along character for the audience, but he really isn't, surprisingly.
He isn't.
Kind
No.
of give
usually-
up on that after he gets introduced.
Yeah,
I'm glad,
usually
too.
it's like the first episode. Yeah, I mean, I like Sunspot, but I don't know, he was definitely to fill the roster up or something. I don't know, the new recruit.
So, you know, Jubilee's upset that she can't go out for her birthday. And while her and Sunspot are in her room, they manage to find this device called a Motendo, which Jubilee's like, oh, I've never gotten this before. They put it into the like gaming system. They get sucked into the game. It turns out that like this villain from an alternate universe, alternate dimension that feeds off of like viewers, and like it's very much like a commentary on like not like social media, but you know, having to have a lot of views, television, live events, shit like that.
Like streamers.
Yeah, basically they create this new
Mojo.
game, Mojo, and I'm dumbing it down very much. And normally in the comic books, he's a large, very very like obese kind of character, but since in this show he's been neglected of attention or views, he's very much like emaciated and skinny now. And so
He feeds off
Mojo,
engagement.
yeah, Mojo sucks them into this video game world where they have to do like these they have to go through level by level fighting bosses. It's very much like a fun retro. It's a filler episode. It's like it plays up on like video games like X-Men Arcade or TMNT, Turtles Through Time, shit like that. You know, Jubilee meets a version of herself, like an AI version of herself in the game that has existed for so long that she's like mastered her mutant abilities and she's old as shit now, which I really liked
Yeah.
because it showed Jubilee what she could like do with her powers, which she demonstrates later in the episode by like making firework ninja stars and like firework skates, which was really sick. But yeah, basically that episode ends, or you know, that first half ends with Jubilee and Sunspot getting out of Mojo World. They
Motendo.
beat Mojo, Motendo, and Jubilee gets laid. Jubilee makes out.
Well, I mean,
I like
they,
to think
they kiss.
Yeah,
not like to think that.
let's
Not like to
be
be like.
presumptuous.
Not like to be like,
Yes.
hey, she's getting it. But I'm just like, I
They
like
kiss
that.
at the end of that episode.
I like that basically at the end, once she
Dude.
gets out, she's the one to like pull him in and be like, all right, now let's fucking kiss. Because
Yeah.
it just seems like in general, I like how
Very heartfelt.
this show is dealing with relationships, you know?
Yeah, it's not like they're not going with the will they won't they for like a whole 5 seasons before. It's like now we finally, you know, it's like we're actually doing
Although
some
that
progression.
that whole shtick with Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto is messy. I do like the one thing I do like about the first chunk of this episode and the video game theming is just the fact that they like put in the effort to homage and reference specifically like X-Men as a video game
Yeah.
like concept too, like because they even right from the get-go with the ending sequence of the game being a character select screen
Oh yeah.
for the ending like credits every episode. Like I just thought that was really cool that they were kind of like they knew that they were not just paying homage to the series they're continuing. They were kind of like, no, this
Yeah.
really is like gonna be an X-Men love letter.
I will say too, this episode made me more than ever really want. You know how like TMNT got that like new retro arcade style game recently. It just makes me like, I want to play this. Like, I want a new old school X-Men beat 'em up with like, you know, and also do a collection of all the SNES and Genesis ones too while you're at it, like TMNT did. Fuck, I'd buy that shit.
It'd be a good time to capitalize
so
on
good.
it.
Oh, definitely.
Perfect. And then that pushes us into the second half of the episode where it's revealed. It shifts. It's not about Sunspot or Jubilee. That's when it becomes Life Death Part 1. It's about Storm and Forge, and Forge basically admits to Storm that in the past he was recruited by the government to create like a anti-mutant kind of power inhibitor like collar. Yeah, it turns out that Forge designed the tech that took Storm's powers away. And Forge feels guilty about it. He feels guilty, although like sure he inadvertently created it, but still he was a part of the program that was an anti-mutant program, so it's very much like a strange internal conflict that he has, considering that Forge is a mutant. He's a mutant that could create anything he thinks of. And so he finds Storm, and he says, like, look, I want to help you try to get your powers back somehow. Also, I might have been the one that kind of took your powers. I'm sorry. And yeah, Storm, as they're living together, or as they're kind of together in Texas or in the desert at this point, Storm starts to be visited by this evil bird that's telling her not to try and get her mutant powers back,
It's evil freaking owl
The
demon.
adversary.
Yeah. The adversary.
Ooh, scary.
As someone who has not seen this, who does not have previous knowledge of this storyline, this was very. I thought this was very interesting to me. I liked the adversary. I liked I liked how it was kind of like Storm's spirit journey, like to try and like reclaim herself and like her. Like kind of like fight for her own soul in order, and then it was cool because like the adversary poisons Forge with its like poison bite, and so it also becomes like her going through this not just for herself but also to save Forge, and she like has to come to terms with the fact that maybe she's not ready to like never talk to him again after being mad at him. Maybe she does want to like still know him and work this out and believe that he is trying to make up for his past wrongdoings.
I do like the relationship throughout, but Forge is definitely he does put her on his pedestal a lot, and he does he's very much like romanticizing and very much like, but Storm, you're a freaking goddess. Why don't you just be a goddess and do this and that? To the point where like Storm slaps him and she's like, stop fucking. I think she says something like, stop saying I'm a goddess or some shit like that. Like, and I'm like, yeah,
she basically insinuates that he's fetishizing her.
That's exactly it. He's fetishizing her. Yeah. Which, like, at the same it's tough, too, because, I mean, spoilers, they do end up getting together. So it's not like, oh, did it work? But it's like,
It turns out it was deeper than that, but, like, it's understandable why she reacted that way.
Exactly.
Because of how he was going about it and how he, at the beginning, it really seemed like he was doing it more for, like, his own vision of what she should be rather than wanting to help her genuinely because that's what she wanted.
But you're a goddess.
Was even figuring out if that is what she wanted.
Yeah. Whether or not she wanted to be human or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like someone else, like, I can't remember if I was talking to you guys about this or I was talking to someone else about this, but it's like, you have to keep in mind that, like, I know they never touch on actual like human to human racism in the show.
No.
Oh, yeah, it's all
but like
allegorical.
but among humans,
Among Us.
the most disenfranchised among the most disenfranchised groups are Black women.
Yeah.
And so, like, actively oppressed, actively disenfranchised, and systematically like downtrodden, and so like put down by the system on purpose. So it's like, I feel like if you are a mutant as well in that universe, and there's also militant groups who are out to kill you for that, but you at least have like tangible power at your fingertips, I feel like that is a huge struggle when like looking at like how Storm can handle what's happening, because she's one of the strongest mutants.
Yeah.
Like
she's the leader
upper
for a while.
echelons of her power are insane.
Yeah.
And so she was used to having the power to shape her own destiny and shape her future with like the effort and the force of her will. And it became, when all that's stripped away, it's like this huge crushing realization of powerlessness. And it's like, I think that was a huge part of the journey as well, is like discovering how like her power doesn't come from her actual like superhero gifts, it like how it's internal. And it's like, it was a really nice introspective for her.
To connect this with the comics too, this in the comics, like when she loses her power, she actually still leads the X-Men without any powers for a while and still kicks ass just to be like
sick. Oh,
and it's like Mohawk era.
Well, I think
that.
That's the one thing. I wish she kept her mohawk throughout all of this, because the mohawk is mohawk. Yes,
Yeah.
Good job. I wish she kept her mohawk through all this. But fuck, what was I gonna fucking say before?
Yeah. And then one other thing I wanted to kind of connect with this comics, with Life Death in particular. It's been a minute since I've read both Life Death 1 and 2, so I can't really remember 1 to 1 what is the exact is saying. There's a lot similar though. A lot of it's like, oh, this looks very familiar. The only thing I remember in the comic, which admittedly they can't really do as much or to the same degree, is she becomes kind of suicidal in the comic and like just wants to die when she doesn't have her powers, and like actively tries to like die passively. But obviously it's the show that's geared for kids too.
Yeah.
But it's like it's
Well,
it's a good one.
I don't know how much it is for kids, because
I was about to say, not this time around.
I'm being
So now with what-
I'm being
Now with
facetious.
what Dala said, with Dala's facetiousness, I'm going to move on to episode 5.
Yeah.
Um,
The worst
remembering-
episode.
Ooh, episode 5. Oh,
episode 5.
terrible.
So right off the
Yeah.
okay, so Genosha, the mutant haven island, has been admitted into the UN. It's now part of the United Nations, and in celebration, Magneto has been like invited to the island along with like Rogue, because they're going to ask Magneto to be basically like the representative of Genosha. I don't want to say they're king. I don't know how to really like phrase it.
Basically, yes. Like basically, they're like, we need to make a figurehead. We're gonna we're gonna rule with a council still, but we need like a singular prime
the
minister
British,
to act as our figurehead. I think it was prime minister. Like,
Probably,
literally
actually, yeah.
was gonna be his title of Genosha.
We need someone for the mutants to like rally behind, and
Exactly, and to be
so
the face of their cause.
so they invite Magneto to Genosha to make him this to make him their prime minister, and in response he invites Rogue, just so that, you know, because throughout the entire show, you know, something that we haven't touched on, there's a really like intense like sexual connection with Rogue and Magneto, and that's because Magneto's the only person that could physically touch Rogue, you know.
Yeah.
And so they
His
establish
electromagnetic barrier.
they established their relationship together, and how you know, Magneto's the only one that could touch her, and that even before Rogue joining the X-Men, you know, she had a past with Magneto. And so Rogue is invited basically under the pretense that like Magneto's like, hey, I want you to be my queen. I want you to be there and like rule with me. Or not rule.
It is important to note that they did just kind of like send a few X-Men like as like for protection basically, because they sent, and so it was kind of under that guise that Magneto said, oh, I'm sending, let's see, we're gonna bring Madeline, Gambit, and Rogue. Yeah, Rogue should come.
No.
Like,
so no, not even that. Madeline was already she was already on Genosha. Madeline was already on Genosha. So when they arrive on Genosha, she left immediately. Genosha was like, "Hey, we need a psychic that's really powerful." So they took Madeline. But
she offered her services.
This leads into the next thing where it's like, no, literally they just invited Magneto. Magneto's like, I'm gonna invite Rogue, and then Gambit was like, oh, you two are going? No, I'm gonna go too.
Oh, nobody invited himself.
Nobody invited Gambit. It was just literally Magneto and Rogue, and Gambit was like, I don't really trust all this business,
I think I must have just assumed that they invited him at some point and I missed it. It's just like, because he just went with them, and I was like, no, literally, okay, I guess they
literally he's just like, I want to tag along. No, I want to go. No, I want to see what's going on. Which Gambit kind of has been essentially getting cut ever since Magneto became leader of the X-Men in this show. She's the only one, or he's the only one that could touch Rogue, and Rogue's been really excited about it. Rogue's been really like, hey, Magneto's here. He's a great leader. He's really strong. She's really happy. And Gambit, who was her partner or boyfriend at the time, is just like, fuck,
I think they were just kind of a fling.
Yeah. Something. There was something. They had some kind of relationship.
Yeah. They had some kind of situationship.
Basically, yeah. So they all arrive on Genosha. There's gonna be this celebration of them joining the United Nations. Right before that happens, that's when Rogue decides to tell Gambit the truth about everything that's been happening between her and Magneto, the attraction that they used to have, their relationship. And this whole time it's just done in such like a really strong, nuanced way that's like not hokey or not like trying to cause any kind of conflict that's like arbitrary. It's just done so, I don't know, there's just so much nuance to it of like it to be stuck between these two people, between like Rogue's caught in this sexual attraction between Magneto, but she's caught in this emotional attraction with Gambit, and it's it's tough, and it's done really well. She kind of explains that she chooses Magneto, and Gambit's like, all right, we're friends. We're just friends. It is what it is. And later in the episode, I mean, fuck, how do we get to the big part?
Cable shows up.
I will say, who is it who walks out? Madeline walks outside at the party, and she sees somebody running through the streets.
Turn off the music. Everybody, turn off the music.
Turn off the music, and it's Cable, who comes up and tries to warn her. But it's too late.
I've watched it 3 times now. I tear up every time.
Right as he realizes that he's talking to Madeline, he gets ripped back to the future.
Swapped.
Or no, she realizes it's Nathan.
Yeah. Cable goes back in time to warn everybody about some kind of impending event. Tells everyone to stop the music. All of a sudden, he runs into Madeline. They have this moment where they look at each other, and she's like, "Wait, your eyes, oh my god, you made it! You made it to the future." And she starts to smile.
Send you to your death.
Yeah,
we didn't know it would actually work.
She starts to smile, and that's when he's like, "No, it's too late." And then he ends up getting sucked back into the present or wherever he's from. And At that point, Genosha starts getting attacked, just
firebombed
decimated
by Sentinel forces and the Master Mold.
Yeah.
Just a giant sentinel cockroach. It was a cockroach insect like creature, like 3-headed thing. This very much was inspired by 9/11, and that is something that the writers have talked about. That this very much was supposed to be like that kind of
Well,
that
the
kind
original
of
comic too. Is
kind
also,
of event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
The what is it?
Yeah.
Mutant Massacre? Or?
E is for extinction.
E is for extinction. Mutant Massacre. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's very grueling and it's very tough because it is like a kids cartoon, or well, no, I will say it's not a kids cartoon. It's very
apparently
much like an
it's not.
adult's cartoon. It isn't. It isn't. But it's like. It's like just because it's animated, it's like, oh fuck, it's not like you can't be reminded of how grueling and how serious things can be, You see a lot of like dead mutants. You see a lot of dead mutants with their eyes open in particular, which is something that you don't see in cartoons.
Yep. God, and like right before or like while everything's being attacked too, they make like such a big focus on making sure they like really focus in on a couple of mutants who they can't
keep trying to run away,
can't save, and it's like, it's like when we went to see Godzilla -1, and they were showing like when his foot would hit the ground, and you'd see the people just like fly up in the air from the concrete snapping underneath his foot, and stuff like that. Ugh.
It's like, oh, just because this is like fiction, it's like, oh, it doesn't mean it can't be like hard hitting.
Yeah, exactly.
But basically, the end of that episode turns into Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit trying to save as many mutant civilians as they can. A lot of beautiful action between. There's a point where Magneto, like I said, character, like this is his show throughout. Like in my opinion, it's his show. There's a point
really
where he's trying to square up against the Sentinel cockroach thing, and he has this moment where he breaks down and he's having flashbacks of like of his PTSD, and he's having like flashbacks of the Holocaust, and he tears up, and he uses like this train as a whip to just like smack the fucking Sentinel that's like in front of him, and it's like really powerful stuff. Basically the episode ends with Magneto tries to save a handful of mutants from this direct Sentinel blast, and he ends up holding back Rogue and Gambit. The explosion ends up going off, and it's Magneto's presumably dead. Rogue charges off after the Sentinel. Gambit goes in after her. Gambit ends up getting caught and impaled by like one of the Sentinel's claws. But Gambit has the power of kinetic energy, and he could charge anything that he touches with kinetic energy. And he causes this giant kaiju Sentinel to fucking explode in just one of the most badass like moments of TV and like comic book history. Like I watched it right now before this. The Sentinel says mutant target identified, and Gambit's like, oh, the name's Gambit, mon ami, remember it. And the whole episode's called Remember It. And that's the last thing he says before he supercharges the Sentinel and causes it to explode.
God, that was. I'm just tearing up just thinking about it. It was so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the
God, at the very end.
Do they do the Rogue thing at the very end? Is that right at the end of the episode too?
At the very end, Rogue picks up Gambit's corpse and she's just like, honey, I can't feel you, Sherry.
Oh.
And it's like, oh man.
Oh, it's so hard not to cry. That was such an emotional episode.
Yeah, so good.
Whew.
Shit, what to talk about? What do I have in my notes? Honestly, I think the best thing was that they really figured out the nuance of the relationships, honestly, and just how hard it could be to like struggle, or how hard it could be to like balance your feelings between two people. Just rogues, like, because obviously you don't understand that struggle of never being able to touch anybody until you could finally touch somebody, and that's Magneto, you know, as opposed to the person that like knows you your whole life and it's like completely understands you on a whole different level, being Gambit. I think there was you know, I think there was even something that we forgot in this episode where like there's like this subplot of the news is interviewing the X-Men, and they're trying to find out like, you know, just the kind of people that they are. And that's when you get a really good quote from like Cyclops, where he's just like, you know, the reason that you guys the only reason that you guys exist right now is because we let you, or because, you know, basically you see that Cyclops is kind of going down the route of like, oh, Magneto was right. But
Wish
even
we went down
then,
that route a little bit more.
well, probably later. But even then, there's a point where like Jean Grey gets upset with Cyclops and kisses Wolverine. You know?
Yeah, that's like at the very beginning of the
episode 5.
Of episode 5. And then Wolverine immediately is like can see through her and is like, he's like, you're just doing this because you're conflicted. You need to just go talk to Scott. He says, what is it? He goes, he's like, Jean Grey and Scott Summers are always together. That's the rules. You just forgot them.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
And then he like walks away. He's like, you just forgot them. And it's like, damn, dude. Even then, Logan, as much as he loves Jean Grey, he's just like, nah, this isn't like I
doesn't want
gotta
pity.
go.
He just wants that. He wants her to actually like want him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, instead of just looking for comfort because she's falling out with Scott.
Yeah,
because she feels disconnected from Scott because Scott
A clone
is
now
in love with the clone.
Like
And they have a
like
kid.
basically like the time going up to when they had the kid and that whole experience, like he talks about how like that was what finally solidified like his like unending like closeness with Jean, but then it turns out it wasn't Jean, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
That was episode 5. I think it's gonna be nominated for an Emmy. I think it was said that like Marvel's gonna put it in to be nominated.
Nominated.
All right, so episode 6.
Life, Death.
Episode
2B.
6. Is it just Life, Death 2? Is that
Yep.
it?
This whole episode is Life, Death 2.
Okay, not the whole episode, because the first half
Title of it. I guess.
starts.
Well,
The first half starts with Professor X on the Shi'ar Empire. You know, I forgot. You know, I didn't know what led him to leave to the Shi'ar Empire in the show, at least.
It was like space wife or space pussy. I don't know.
But he's got some pussy right now. No.
I was like, I can't think of a better way to say it outside of just that.
No, I'm gonna put. Dude, no, that's literally what it is. So Xavier's getting that pussy and fucking, you know, and he could walk again. So he's just like, sick. I'm walking. I'm getting all this pussy. Like, it's great. It's like I'm 20 all over again. And so he's a part of this empire. And he's about to get like, I don't know, not indoctrinated in there, but he's got the Shi'ar Empire is basically like, look, Professor X.
Was he gonna be married
really,
to her? I thought it was
he was gonna marry. He was gonna
become like.
He was gonna marry the queen,
Emperor.
and they're basically like, look, you're gonna become the new emperor. We need someone like you. You're a genius professor.
You can walk. You got
we just have.
bald head.
You can walk. You're
telepath.
getting all this pussy,
Pussy, yeah.
We just need you
It's
to
so
we need you to renounce your Terran life, you know. And so
And
you know,
renounce all memories of his Terran life.
yeah, and wipe your memory of your Terran life. And he's just like, oh, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And so you know, that's honestly the first half. That's just the first half of the episode is him being conflicted.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out with that, like with the social component of the show, that I think that's kind of going off of, which I like, is kind of like when you, I'm trying to think of like the best I can think of is like basically if you were to marry into a different race and that race is like stop being that your culture and try to convert like whitewash into or whatever wash, and so I feel like I get vibes of that with that part.
That's a really good point because like I feel because there is something that I wanted to bring up where one, they referred to Earth as the space ghetto, which I'm like, okay, that sounds exactly as what you're.
They
like,
very much did, yeah.
Two, they're very much there's a point where like at the end of that like first half, Professor X sends everyone's mind into like a lecture room or like a lesson where Professor X is teaching everybody.
Into a classroom,
But basically Professor X, and this is my takeaway, kind of equates the Shi'ar Empire to America, where it's like, you know, it's you want the Shi'ar Empire wants all of these other countries to like oh, we want to actually help you come into our country and
imperialize and
make you not but basically savages. It's like they're imperialists. They they're imperialists. There's a quote where it's like you strike down budding empires at the knees and you claim to help them walk again or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like they cause the problem while promising to fix the problem. You know what I mean? And just throughout all of that, they're just like kept thinking like the American Empire. And so that's what I thought was really
the British
interesting.
Empire before it.
Yeah, no, it's very much like, it's I think just in general too. It's like I like that it's like it looks at it like in colonization components. It looks at it like in the various forms that racism and like other discrimination is, even if it's like a microaggression or just kind of I don't know like the word I'm trying to think of, like making you conform to my superior assimilation. Through basically colonization of like a space colony.
Yeah, like basically like the lesson that like assimilation is not acceptance.
Yeah,
like forcing someone to be the same as you is not the same as accepting them for being different.
Yeah,
and valuing them for their difference.
And so, I say that Professor X was all about this pussy because there was a fucking there's a piece of dialogue right in the beginning where they talk about Xavier and they're like, you best keep your pet on a leash. And he says a line where it's like, they speak of me as if I'm your pet. Not that it is a displeasing thought. And then Lilandra is like, oh, hush now, you could do your barking later. And like Professor X smirks, and I'm just like, this guy he was all in it for the gash, dude. Like he just wanted to fucking get laid.
He just pulled a Captain Kirk. It was all for the experience.
After he had was it post-cum clarity, he was like, wait a minute, no, I don't want to assimilate. What the fuck? No, Earth
and
is
that
cool.
was represented by mid-classroom lesson on acceptance when he gets a vision of all of the mutants. And
little did we know that classroom was actually going to be a role play.
Dying.
Yeah, that classroom, little did we know, was actually role play with Lilandra.
Yep. But
yeah, that's
like Nate had said, you know, Professor X gets a vision of the death and the ease for extinction event on Genosha, and then we cut to Life Death Part 2, the rest of Life Death Part 2. Storm gets her powers back and she beats the owl and she falls in love with Forge. That's it, right?
I mean, ultimately.
I mean, like, really? That's it? It's good.
I mean,
there's nuances to it, but it's like kind of like I think just more visually rather than like there's
Yeah.
It's shot well. Music's great. It's it's stuff
There's
like
a whole
that.
thing with like getting a spell components to use a spell that forges like family new to fight off the adversary and
basically
stuff like that.
Storm has to come up with this, well, not a spell, she has to get a certain plant that'll stop the infection or the evilness that's spreading throughout Forge's body from the adversary bite, and in order for her to get the plant, she has to overcome her greatest fear, which is confined spaces, which I think is really interesting for someone who could fly, so I think that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I keep saying there's a lot of nuance to this and that, but like that episode in particular, she just, she gets her powers back. She does great. Yeah, not much else.
And she gets a costume change and a hair change. She instantaneously grows a full head of waist length hair,
which
instead of her
this
previous
is something
haircut.
I wanted to ask
Previous
Dala, because I had heard bits of this. Like, are her
Storm
powers?
extensions.
Are bits of her powers like magic, or is she also magic too?
Not that I'm aware of, but that could be a much later thing that I haven't gotten to. I know, like in Africa, she's seen as a goddess, so it could be like folklore based or something.
Yeah, because we could figure it out later.
I mean,
Well, I mean, I can tell you that according to the Google, she does have affinity for magic, because of her personal ancestry, has connection to magic. She has a magical ancestry, including Earth's second ever Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh, what the fuck?
She's descended from this Earth's second ever Sorcerer Supreme,
nice.
an Egyptian sorceress, and a priestess as well.
Dr. Storm?
And so basically, like, apparently there's times where she has used magic to infuse and make her abilities, like,
that's why
go crazy. Basically,
that's what I had looked up. Yeah, that's what I had looked up, because I remember hearing something about that, and then just her miraculously growing
been
hair in a
Thor,
new
too.
costume.
So maybe she has residual.
She
Thor
has been
powers.
Thor. Oh my god. Okay,
And
side note.
they were using magic in the episode, so like maybe it was just like part of the magic.
Yeah.
Side note: there's been a rumor that in the What If season 3 of Marvel, we're gonna see Thor Storm
Oh,
Thor,
nice. So
which I think would be so cool.
Thorm.
Thor. Thor.
Thor. Sorry, I looked up on
Storm.
the Marvel wiki just real quick. Yeah, Storm's power is also mystical in nature, owing to her descendant, basically. Yeah, just basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, like her powers are like semi-magical.
But she's still a mutant, obviously. Like,
But she is still
Yeah.
like her
That's
mutant ability
interesting.
is the ability to access this like weather magic.
her magic
characters-
powers.
There's a character by a mutant called Magic whose power is magic. So essentially,
Yeah, true.
So there you
Scarlet
go.
Witch has
I
hex
mean,
magic as her power, although she's not a mutant currently. But whatever.
Before they explained it, they kind of marketed Gambit
Yeah.
as being magician themed, like
Magic,
with his like
like,
cards and stuff.
sleight
Yeah,
of
like
hand.
he like they like people who don't know what Gambit does or who he is like call his power magic, like his powers magic.
Okay, so
Episode
episode 7.
Bright Eyes.
This is the episode Rogue Goes Rogue.
Episode 7. Cool. Easy. Rogue goes rogue. Just like
Yeah,
Jimmy
that really should have been the title.
Easy, yeah. Basically, it starts off with a funeral for Gambit. Nightcrawler is leading the I don't know, he's saying the final words for Gambit. And everyone's kind of well, not everyone's upset, but they're all mourning Gambit. Jubilee ends up being upset because she's like, where the fuck is Rogue? Gambit died for Rogue. We cut to Rogue, who is not terrorizing the government, but she's like going to the secret US like facility, and she's like, tell me where the fuck the dude who like created the Sentinels and the dude who like designed them all, Henry Gyrick,
Trask.
like
Gyrick and Trask, yeah.
where are they? She ends up coming to face to face with Captain America. Captain America is like, look,
It's fucking crazy
I'm
to
not
see
happy-
these cameos to be also
so strange, yeah.
True.
It's just like, whoa,
It was
wait,
so
what?
awesome, honestly.
Like these
It's
characters
like,
are here.
oh yeah, it's Captain America. Kind of an extended cameo. He talks to Rogue and he's like, look, I'm also trying to look for Henry Gyrick and Bolivar Trask, but last thing we heard was that he's in Mexico. But I would go out there and help you, but my hands are tied because if anyone sees this uniform in Mexico beating people up, it's gonna send the wrong kind of message. And so Rogue is like, oh well, okay, let me just go ahead and take your shield then if your hands are tied, because you're not gonna need this. And she throws his shield into the middle of fucking nowhere in the like
Just
mountains.
throws it off into the distance, like, yeah.
I love that. I love that so much
It
because
was
like
petty and perfect.
every video, every podcast, every review that I listen to that talks about that moment, they're all just like, yeah, Captain America didn't find that shit for a minute. They're all
Nope.
just like, he could have had sure, he had a tracker. He might have just like had 20 people on it, but you knew that he was looking for that shit for like,
It's like sheer time-wise,
Yeah.
it
It
would
was
just
like
take a while to
lodge-
search and find it.
it was lodged into a mountain or some shit. Like it was gone. Rogue ends up going to Mexico. I don't know exactly how it happens, but she ends up she kind of like passes out at one point, and when she wakes up, I don't know if it's from like exhaustion or something, but when she wakes up, the X-Men all around her, with like Nightcrawler kind of like holding her, because Nightcrawler is her surrogate or like a adoptive brother, which is something that I forgot until this show reminded me, because they were both raised by Mystique, and so
she passed out because she sucked all of Gyrick. She found Gyrick.
that's right. She
And
finds
she
Gyrick
sucked
in
his
Mexico.
memories dry, and so she like absorbs his like life force in his memories, and
knocked
it
her
like
out.
knocks her unconscious.
And when she wakes up, she's surrounded by the X-Men, and she breaks down in Nightcrawler's arms. Really, it's a really sad moment. Man, Rogue is also a big MVP of this season. Just she goes through so much. She's just such a
Yeah.
good character.
That's what I mean by like it's like every character that gets highlighted, at least everyone has like their one episode and then ongoing.
Yeah.
This is very much one of hers.
But they end up getting a message actually from I get their names mixed up. It's either Trask. Is it Trask, the scientist?
Yeah, because at this point she's already killed Gyrick.
Gyrick.
Yeah.
No, she hasn't killed Gyrick yet. We'll get to that. Someone else kills Gyrick. Gyrick is in
that's right.
Gyrick's in a coma right now. And so
Yeah. That's how it was.
Bolivar Trask hits
From
up
the
the
head
X.
sucking.
Bolivar
I
Bolivar
was
Trask
like, what
kicks
did
up
he
the
do?
X-Men. Bolivar Trask kicks up the X-Men, and they he's just like, hey, I didn't know that they were gonna be using my DNA for this. Like, why don't you go ahead and meet me here? We'll talk about all of this. I'll help you out. And so they meet with Trask, and sorry.
Ooh, it's burp powers again.
The belch. They meet with Trask, and it turns out that what is it? Rogue tries to interrogate him, and she just basically drops him off of a building. To which
He's gonna jump first.
Intending to, yeah, he was gonna jump, but she catches him so that she can ask him more questions and get more info out of him. And he says he's gonna refuse to talk. And she's like,
"Fuck it." She's
okay.
like, "Well, all right,"
Then we
and
don't
she
need
just
you.
drops him.
Yeah.
She drops him, and you don't see him hit the ground, but you see Rogue turn around, and right behind her, Bolivar Trask flies back up turns out he's been turned into a sentinel human hybrid.
Sleeper Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Sleeper Sentinel hybrid.
Yeah. Which is, well...
And...
Yeah, go on.
Activated when he died.
Yeah.
Or was about to die.
And this is kind of when we get the revelation that the villain that has been behind the scenes the entire time, it has been Mr. Sinister. It's been someone by the name of Bastion, who is revealed to be a human sentinel hybrid. And so they figure out Bastion is behind all of this. You know, that's when
because Cable shows up to save them. I was just gonna say Cable. They were about to lose to Trask, who was like taking them out one by one.
As like a sleeper Sentinel.
Luckily, Cable finally adjusts to the right time and comes back at this moment, and he used an EMP to shut down the Trask bot. And that's where he explains to them that the reason why there's the human sentinels exist is because of Bastion.
Yeah.
And that's when right at the end of the episode, he's like, Bastion is really the force behind all this. And not only that, but Magneto is alive and Bastion has him.
Yeah.
And they cut to the villain in question, and they cut to Bastion with Magneto in
his 20s
custody, being really creepy and shaving Magneto's face while talking to him.
Yeah.
Wait, that's what it was. That's what it was. So it was Cable who was just like it wasn't Trask or Gyrick, it was someone else. He doesn't say that it was Bastion, but then it cuts to Bastion. He goes to Gyrick, he kills Gyrick, and then he goes to Magneto, and he starts shaving Magneto and being like, it turns out I was the real villain all along.
And you look cute in your little underwear.
I forgot. He stops off at Gyrick's place to murder him real quick.
Yeah.
Because
while he's in a coma.
One complaint, and this is like a nitpick, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I missed it, but and this is more of a complaint with time travel in general. Cable time traveled the second time. Why didn't he go back before the episode 5? You know?
No, they said well, they talk about it later, but he went back 200 times to try and stop Genosha.
I must have missed that.
And he basically discovered that it's not stoppable. Like, nothing he could do could stop it from happening.
And Beast...
I'm glad they talked about that. Because I was like...
That's where...
They did.
Yeah. That's where Beast kind of acknowledges the broader MCU. And he talks about how, like, the monks at Kamar-Taj... They used to say that there were absolute points in time that just can't be undone, which is something that the What If cartoon had brought up, something that fucking Spider-Verse has brought up in its own way. So it seems like this is one of the events, which going back to episode 5, right before the extinction event in Genosha, in the sky, you see Uatu, the Watcher.
Oh, yeah.
Who is...
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like a quick...
You see, like...
blink and miss it.
It's like, it's a blink and you miss it, but it's like, holy shit, some shit is about to go down right now. Like, this is, can't be undone, you know? Which makes me think, like, oh, I wonder if, and this is all after the thought, if the X-Men, like Fox X-Men movies, if they all had this kind of event that happens... But, you know,
X-Men
we never
Origins
see
Wolverine.
it because...
That's one of them. Can't be changed.
But yeah, episodes... Wait, that was episode 7? Anything else for episode 7, Bright Eyes?
Nope. That's literally where it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cable is reunited with his family.
Yep. And then, because, like, the start of the next episode
Most
is when Cable starts explaining about the fixed point in time.
Yeah.
When they start talking about that.
Probably missed that.
Okay.
It was like not fighting going on. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
So
it really was just like in the midst of talking about a bunch of plot
stuff. Gotcha.
So, speaking of a bunch of plot, we are in the last 3 episodes of the season.
3-parter.
So the 3-part finale. So we'll just kind of talk about them all in one.
So it starts. I got it. So like, yeah, because it starts with the the protests happening outside the school. And they get the huge exposition dump from Cable about how Bastion's going to start a 300-year war between humans and mutants, based off of all starting with the attack on Genosha. And they learn this is when they learn what Bastion is and how he was born by a father who was infected with the Prime Sentinel virus and a human mother, and then they were able to give birth to a son who is essentially completely hybrid, half machine, half human by birth.
It's crazy the way they explain it too, because they're like the most advanced version of a Sentinel came back in time, or the most advanced version of a Sentinel sent back some of its virus or essence throughout time, which infected the human and turned him into a human hybrid Sentinel, who got the woman pregnant, that gave birth to a human hybrid Sentinel mutant, which is insane.
Yes. And so, and his mutant power is that he perfectly fuses he was able to exist is his mutant power, basically.
Well, his mutant power too is that he could
makes him a technopath.
Yeah, technopath. He could hear machines, which is crazy.
He can communicate with them. He can sense them on a psychic level and manipulate them and on a basically atomic level. And by the end of the episode, Bastion is explaining his plan and everything about the future to one of the members of the UN who he has kidnapped, Cooper. And she sees Magneto, gagged and bound and strapped to this giant thing, and eventually she takes pity on Magneto from hearing everything that Bastion's saying and sets Magneto free.
Yeah, and before all this, you get glimpses of. I think this is the main episode where you see Jean, Scott, and Cable work together. Because meanwhile, while this is all happening, them three are they're trying they go to Bastion's hometown, and they find that it's completely deserted except for his mom, who's there, who warmly welcomes them into the house, and she's like, "Oh, I expected you to be here a little earlier, or a little later, or whatever." And that's when you cut back to what you were saying.
Yeah, because basically, they go there and they learn while in Harmony, Pennsylvania, really what Bastion is. That's where they get a lot of that information. So yeah, and it cuts to her releasing after she finds out about the techno virus. She releases Magneto, and in response to everything happening and knowing that everything is going to be ended by machine-human hybrids, Magneto promptly flies to the North Pole
in his underwear.
And immediately causes a worldwide EMP that permanently damages the electromagnetic field of the Earth and makes a worldwide blackout that kills thousands of people, but also shuts down all the Prime Sentinels that were starting to awaken, and as the sleeper Sentinel humans were starting to wake up, as it was also revealed that Trask had turned his own mother into one of these Bastion had turned his own mother into one of these
what did you say, Sebastian?
Sentinels. No, at first I said Trask on accident.
Oh, sorry, I thought I heard that's what.
But but Bastion.
So,
that was part one.
So
it's
part one. Really good. Definitely, you get the dynamic of the Summers family, which is really nice. You get to see Magneto just go all out and be like, all right, fuck this. I'm calling it. I'm challenging. I'm fucking challenging the human race. This is it.
Last straw.
I'm
Yeah.
taking the reins here. No more taking anyone else's advice. I'm solving this my way.
Yep. The next episode, you know, and I think a big part of the first episode too that we forgot to mention was Xavier comes back and Bastion finds a way to like weaponize his arrival, so that now like people like anti-mutant
True.
tension is at an all-time high.
Yeah, he
People are
weaponizes
just
it
like,
to
no,
the
we don't trust
public.
humans. Yeah. Meanwhile, you know, Magneto, he causes the blackout, and then he goes, puts on his classic uniform, and brings Asteroid M out of the ocean. You know, his basically his palace, his other mutant haven. And he arrives at the X Mansion, and he's just like, "Hey, who wants to join forces with me? It's us or the humans. This is it. Fucking, you know, what's happening now?" And so, you know, you got Sunspot and Rogue who join Magneto on Asteroid M, and then you got the rest of the X-Men who end up splitting into two different teams. Basically, one team goes to go confront Magneto, while the other team goes to go confront Bastion.
The blue and gold teams, baby.
The blue team and gold team.
Very nice.
Who wants to pick up from here?
Well, it's like there's Cyclops' team going up to Asteroid M, and Bastion's hideout is so the Bastion's like side of the plan is they're gonna put a modified collar on Bastion to cut off his like
Powers
signal to the
or-
rest of the
Yeah,
Sentinels.
like an EMP
Yeah.
to him, essentially.
Nice.
Yeah, basically. And so basically they have to like fight through all of his Sentinels to like get to him to try and put the collar on, but simultaneously the other team is trying to get to Magneto so that if they're trying to try and convince him, but if they have to, Xavier's going to just hijack his mind and force him to reset the poles so that the Earth doesn't like keep basically plunging into, I think it was going to plunge into Ice Age or something without the
Basically.
like with the
Because it's like stuff spinning,
poles being
I think, right?
yeah.
One thing I wanted to just jump in that I really liked that was when Forge and I think Beast were constructing the collar for Bastion. They were like, yeah, and we can get rid of his powers too. And Storm is there, and she's like, no, I know what that's like. It's pretty bad. Like, kind of just like the bigger person kind of showing, like, let's
feel
end the
like
like
that's
racism or whatever, mutantism.
That's
She, like,
here.
That's such a kind way
it's
to
like
put
a-
it. Because she like straight up
Yeah.
like looks at them, she like darts her eyes at them, she's like, no, and then you hear thunder. It's like, oh, actually, never mind. We're not going to use anti-mutant technology.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
one
they
of my
take
favorite
it.
She
parts, too.
shocks
That's
him.
so funny.
She shocks it with electricity.
Yeah.
The thing they're holding, I believe.
I mean, they take it very lightheartedly,
like-
at least, because I remember them being like, okay,
she's
let's
holding.
just get rid of that part. No biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because like I feel like metaphorically this is like I'm not sure like what they're going for really with it, where she's like it's kind of like we're not going to use the tools of our oppressors to win, basically.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I don't know. It's
Well,
I
it's that too,
feel-
because it's like she's also like, oh, I've been on the other end
Yeah.
of what that is to like have that stripped of me, and it's like, no, that sucks. So regardless of, because like it's funny, because even later in the episode, the X-Men are constantly trying to appeal to Bastion's humanity,
they are trying to save him still. Yeah, they're trying
especially
to, like,
especially Storm, because she does it at one point too. That she's just like, no, we're not gonna rob people of their abilities, of things that make them special or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
basically.
sense.
Yeah.
So they they don't basically Sinister takes during the fight in Bastion's headquarters, Sinister hijacks Cable's mind, revealing that he implanted a control device in there the same way he did with Madeline
Grey.
Pryor.
Oh, yeah.
And he takes over Cable's mind, and Cable and Jean Grey have to go head to head in a psychic showdown, ultimately resulting in her using basically muscle memory of being Phoenix to surge her psychic powers and turn her into Phoenix, even though the Phoenix Force is gone at this point in her storyline. So she kind of surprises everybody because the villains did not think she could do that because she doesn't have the Phoenix Force anymore. But she kind of just does, and it manages to slap the collar on Bastion. Meanwhile, up on Asteroid M,
Everyone's
Magneto
fighting Magneto.
is successfully defending himself, and he clamps his own helmet onto Charles Xavier so that Xavier can't use his powers on anybody at all. And as he's doing this, Wolverine comes up behind him and stabs him in the back. And he gets so pissed off. He's like, I've been dealing with you for so long. It's finally time to do what I've always been able to do.
This feud is finally over, he says.
And he tears the adamantium from Wolverine's skeleton.
He forgot he's the
and that's
master
what
of
ends
magnet.
He is
I am the
master
master of Magenta. I am Magenta, the master of magnets.
I am the master of the shiny. Gimme. Yoink. And he sucks it out.
Yeah, he goes, yoink, give me that.
The whole episode ends with this incredibly grotesque, twisted, Wolverine screaming as the adamantium's being.
It's pretty much straight from the comic too, the way
it's straight up.
It's a freeze frame. It's just straight up just the
splash
art
page of Wolverine getting ripped apart, essentially, or metal getting ripped out of him.
Yeah, and that was how part 2 ended. With it was. I thought that was interesting because they didn't focus on Wolverine that much throughout the whole story, and they didn't give him a whole lot of stuff like that. But it is interesting how Magneto is able to call into reference their entire history when he's basically talking about how the fact that he's always spared Wolverine because he literally can undo him in
any fucking
moment.
time.
Yeah, so Wolverine only lives when they're fighting each other. Wolverine only is alive because Magneto decided not to kill him.
Look, this feud is finally over. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Wolverine still manages to get a good stabbing on Magneto, and that manages to give old Charles the one up that he needed. So the next episode picks up with Magneto and Charles. I think they basically Magneto or Charles has made his way inside of Magneto's head and has stopped him from. They're basically both comatose at this point.
Yeah.
Leading the X-Men and or leading Cyclops and Jean Grey to kind of find a way to protect both Magneto and the Professor while also stopping the asteroid M from colliding with the Earth and causing a fucking Ice Age event.
Yep, because unfortunately Jean Grey cutting off Bastion's powers from all the rest of his Sentinels made him go, okay, well then I'm just going to do it by hand myself and still wipe out all of you. Yeah. So he goes flies up to the asteroid, kills the gravity core of the asteroid M and starts it plummeting towards Earth. God, I thought that part was sick.
Oh, yeah.
The Rogue being out in space to meet him as he flies up to the station, that was gnarly, honestly.
Oh yeah, there's a point where Rogue just does a bunch of damage to him that's oof. She is
she smacks him around real good for a second. And then reminds you that she has all of Captain Marvel's powers.
Yep.
Or at least strength.
Or at least just the flight, yeah. Strength and flight.
It's strength, flight, and stuff like that, yeah. She has all that. She just doesn't have the energy absorption part, but she has her own version of that, basically.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of Captain Marvel, too, we get in I think the last two episodes, we see a lot of cameos of Spider-Man, Daredevil, Cloak and Dagger, Hulk, technically, kinda at one point.
Mr. Fantastic through Morph has a couple
which is
Avenger cameos.
I'm wondering how powerful he is. Like more if he can
Yeah.
imitate the powers as well of characters.
I want to talk about them a little later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Morph Hulk, it seems like there's some characters, if that's how it works, he would just always morph into that character because they're so
That's
insanely
why-
powerful, and that way he would never lose.
There's
Why
gotta
wouldn't
be
he
someone-
morph into Magneto?
Yeah, or undo.
Yeah, exactly. That's such to just
so-
undo the
Mag-
world thing.
because-
So of
Because
course
Magneto's the
there's
mag-
so of
master of
course
magnet.
there's a, you know, or maybe it's like a physical thing because all the characters that he morphed into were
True.
like physical powers, which
True,
that
true.
kind of makes sense. It was
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic, it was Hulk, it was Blob,
I think somewhere I heard too. Someone was like, maybe
Deathstroke,
it's like
Colossus.
maybe they're like
Quicksilver.
Hulk, but not to the full power level. Like there is his
Yeah.
limits or so.
I think-
Maybe it's temp.
Yeah,
like,
there's like
only 10 minutes or something. at
But
a
we're
time.
still on the
he gets
final
a fraction of it.
Yeah.
final episode, episode 3, or episode 3, final episode.
Yeah.
The third part of episode 10. You know, they're fighting Bastion on Asteroid M, and the X-Men are taking turns, you know, doing damage to him, all except for Wolverine because he's dying
Out of
basically,
Pretty much, yeah.
out of commission. And so, you know, as they're trying to find a way to stop Asteroid M from plummeting to Earth, they're fighting Bastion at the same time.
The United States government.
The United
Or no,
States
I guess
government
it's the
decides
UN.
the UN decides
Oh no,
to
it is
try.
the U.S. It's
the
just
U-
the United States.
Either way, the U decided they try to bomb Asteroid M, which doesn't do anything.
Nope, they're like, we're gonna fire nukes at it.
And so the team basically they beat Bastion, and in his last moments they try to appeal to his humanity, and they try to be like, look, Professor X, you know, tried to visit your mom a long time ago and get you on the team, but your mom didn't want anything to do with mutants. And, you know, even then Bastion is like, what the fuck are you are you really trying to fucking recruit me right now? I just genocided a bunch of you like what the fuck is your problem? Which I'm kind of like, yeah, that's true. And yeah,
So
that's
you're
when, you know, like you
anti-mutant.
guys had said, that's when you guys had said, you know, a Bastion kind of triggers the thing to explode. Fuck, I feel like I'm missing something in between. It's also
So,
fast paced.
Charles during this time successfully saves Magneto from his own mind after taking it over, and is able to like wake up Magneto, and Magneto stops the asteroid and manages to pull it away from Earth's atmosphere in time before it explodes. But the X-Men are all still on it, and it explodes from the compromised gravity core, which, like, yeah. So
well,
it
okay.
was- yeah.
Okay, so I think yeah, so Magneto basically they have to undo Magneto's mind fuckery in order to make him save the world, or stop the impending like smashing of Asteroid M onto the Earth. Yeah, and in doing so, you know, Professor X kind of like pulls him from his own darkness, like you said. But so much of it like implies that like, oh god, there's just so much of it seems like just Xavier dipped his fingers into Magneto's mind and just started wriggling them around and being like, let me figure all of this out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It's very invasive. I mean, that's kind of the whole core of like
Yeah.
why Magneto is so insanely against Charles's powers and being
That's why he
them
wears a
being
helmet.
used on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the idea of control. It's like the one thing that Magneto fears the most is another person having like control over him.
Yeah. It's also very like
and so, like-
violating. It's the one thing you have.
It is.
your
It is.
mind.
He says it. He says
It's
Magneto straight up tells Xavier once he enters his mind, he's like, this is a violation. And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yes.
yeah, dude, it is. This fucking sucks.
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah. So, but he manages to pull him out, but, And for some reason, Magneto, they already used Magneto's powers forcibly to reset the Earth, so the Earth was fine. So really, it was just up to Magneto to decide to help the humans not live from the blast of Asteroid M.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized, I think it was specifically Scott who said he was going to. He was like, I've decided I'm gonna hit the core with my.
He did.
With my eye blast, and that's what's gonna destroy it, to make sure it vaporizes Bastion entirely, so that the technovirus can't spread. And
I don't know about that.
I can't. Well, why did they want to vaporize the whole thing?
I think they were hoping to
they had already
stop it from reaching.
Space.
No, I think. No, okay. I think we might have it backwards. I think they might have tried to explode it or like use the force to stop it from getting to Earth before Magneto had came back and undone it. Because I think Magneto was the last ditch attempt, because he was the only one that could pull the asteroid away.
Basically, right when Scott decided to blow it up was when Magneto like woke up and pulled it further away from Earth. Like, yeah, I think you're right.
But either way, I mean, right before that, you get a really touching moment where Jean Grey and Scott Summers talk to Cable, and they just
psychic.
They say goodbye, and oh my God, Cable, he's like, it's weird because he's like white haired. He looks like an old man, but he kind of acts still like a brash teenager throughout the show.
He does, yeah.
Where he's like, whatever, mom, whatever, dad. But there's a point where, like, the moment he sees Jean Grey and Cyclops, he says like, oh, this kind of ending. And I'm just like, damn, this is just a guy that's like, he just wishes his parents were around. He just really is like an old teen that just wishes that, like, yeah, at one point he's like, growing up, I always heard about stories of the X-Men, and they always made me so mad because I should have been there. And it's like, damn, dude, like, man, really good.
Now.
And then there's this super touching moment where, because they're communicating through like psychic vision,
mm-hmm.
Scott is able to take off his glasses while Jean's suppressing his eye powers, so that he can see his eyes, because they have the same eyes.
Cyclops is like, when you were born, your mom told me that we had the same eyes, and like he looks at Jean, he's like, and like they nod, and she like holds his head, and he takes off the visor. And like he looks, oh my God, I'm getting teary, tearing up thinking about this. He looks at Cable. He's like, your mother told me that we had the same eyes, but now they're just gonna be your eyes. And
that's right. That's what he says. Oh my God. And I think he literally right after that just says, I love you, son.
Yep.
Like,
so good.
dagger.
And so, I think they do a great job of showing the struggles of parenthood and these sacrifices that you have to make. And yeah, I guess once the ship explodes, it doesn't just explode. I guess it goes into there's a time warp.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to assume that, like, basically the technology that created the gravity core combined with Bastion's technology and just the whole explosion caused a rift through space-time. And has deposited the X-Men across time.
In the comics, what leads into that, what I'm guessing is the next storylines, there's a Shi'ar crystal, I forget the name of it, that is like the catalyst of it. So I'm wondering if that is like the core was made up of that crystal and they didn't know, and when it exploded, that's what sent them or something. Based on the comics, I don't know if it's what's going to be there though.
Earlier in the second part of the 3-part finale, Bastion absorbs Cable's time traveling like abilities, or like he absorbs his arm, which might have all the time travel technology. So the main
True,
theory
right.
is that
Bastion at that point's made out of like stuff from the future.
since he's made out of future time travel technology, when he goes into the core and causes it to explode, that it causes like a time thingy.
Nice.
Yeah, sometimes with that time thingy. Yeah, and they reveal that in the future in 3960 AD, they find a like a kind of village of people, and amongst them is Nathan.
Yeah, just Gene and Scott find
Just
them.
Gene,
Yeah.
Because only
yeah,
them
just Gene and
two,
Scott.
only them two have been transported to the
Sent to the
future.
future.
Because in the past,
Yep, 3000 BC. I think I have the list here. Yeah, it's Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto all have been sent to ancient Egypt, where they come across En-Sabanur, aka Apocalypse.
yeah,
In his original incarnation.
and that's the end of season 1 of X-Men '97.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pretty solid way to introduce
Insane.
Apocalypse too.
Well, the other thing I'm confused about is he is for sure in the previous show.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
Yeah.
how? Like, I'm like, I don't know, just the way. I mean, I guess because it's the '97 show, maybe they're like, let's make it like an introduction, like a new big thing. But to them, I don't know. I mean, I guess they know who he is, anyways. It just
It might not be important too. It
Yeah.
might be like a thing where they have to like get out of that time period without changing things, so that them beating Apocalypse still happens.
Yeah.
And like
or
they
it's someone pointed out because there's a comic book I think where the Fantastic Four have to go to the past and either interact with like Rama Tut, who is actually a Kang variant, and it causes Apocalypse to come to power or something like that, or vice versa.
interesting.
But I think that the X-Men are actually, it's going to be like a closed time loop where they're going to be responsible for the events that lead to the
the
present,
rest of
that lead to whatever.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
I do
100%.
I do still think that we might see Homeboy, well, that sounds racist when I say Homeboy, but I only say Homeboy because he's like our homeboy. Jonathan Majors.
Oh,
I
I think we
was
might
like-
get Rama
our
Tut.
constant punching bag.
Our constant
Maybe.
punching.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're his punching bags. I think
Ooh,
Rama
Grade
Tut,
5.
because he's a Kang
King
variant that
I mean, isn't-
existed in
Crazy.
ancient Egypt, and he's
I
in.
Yeah, I think wasn't there like a cameo where it's like all of the Kangs and there is like a Rama Tut one in the background or something?
He is there. Yeah,
Yeah, but I forgot
Yeah.
what movie that was.
Probably Ant-Man, I guess. I don't know.
that was Ant-Man.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
that was
right.
Quantumania.
Yeah,
That's what I
they're
was
like,
thinking.
yeah,
I could
yeah,
think of-
we're all here, we're all
And then they
kings.
also
Yeah.
We're
all running-
briefly reference it with some imagery in the Moon Knight TV show.
Mm.
They use a couple of offhand references to
to
Rama
Rama
Tut,
Tut, yeah.
because this was when they were building up for the Kane thing before they had to cancel all of the Kane storyline really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like Rama Tut is the like a villain in season 2.
Yeah. Another thing
Yeah.
that I'm stoked for more so is that we see, I think it's post credits. Is that okay if I
Oh, yeah.
spoiled? Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're
I wasn't sure if we were there yet. That's all. There's a post credit
for it.
sequence where Apocalypse is in the destroyed ruins of Genosha and picks up Gambit's like remain of his card basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's sick because that means likely we're gonna get a storyline where Gambit's a death from the apocalypse, or sorry, death of the apocalypse for like the Four Horsemen, because that's one of Apocalypse's
Yeah.
things is he has like these four horsemen and often like revives, like Angel was Archangel, like that's how he became. So there might be like a
I totally forgot that they showed Apocalypse in present
oh
day.
yeah, the present day one.
In destroyed Genosha, because that implies that the timeline did get changed, and now, however they defeated him, he is not defeated anymore because he is there to be in present destroyed Genosha.
And I'm wondering if it's going to be a thing where it's like, I mean, I don't know if this is getting ahead of this plan, but I think some storylines that they will pull from for the next season. I mean, Age of Apocalypse, Onslaught.
For sure.
There's a comic series called Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix where the two of them get sent to the future, and that's pretty much what happened to them. We'll also probably get Bone Claw Wolverine, obviously, which is going to be pretty sick too.
Oh yeah.
I
That's
can't.
gonna be
There's
amazing.
there's a cover.
Bone Claw is ready.
There's a really fucking cool cover of like that era of Wolverine where he is like crouched in pain with his bones broken on from his claws, and he's like holding his wrist, and like just the cover alone, it's like such a beautiful like rendition, but it's also like, damn, you can really see the pain, and it's like that must be the first time his bones get shattered, you know. So I'm hoping we get like a homage to that. That'd be pretty sick.
It's like when Viggo Mortensen broke his toe in Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
you
yeah.
could really feel the pain.
Babe, did you know?
Mordenstein?
Did you know?
Did you know Wolverine actually broke his claws in this issue?
Did you know Viggo Mortensen is just one guy?
It's not 3 guys actually.
He's four
people.
very small men in a trench coat.
But I've seen, I saw some theories where it's like the most obvious one is Gambit comes back as Death. A second is that Wolverine comes back as War, and that's how he gets his adamantium back.
That'd be a good way to do it. As long as,
That would be crazy.
as long as they
I
don't do
think, like-
Savage Wolverine or whatever it is called, the noseless.
Oh yeah, Feral.
I don't want to do that. Yeah, Feral. That's.
I don't want to see that either. Yeah,
I don't
Piglet
wanna see
Wolverine.
Yeah.
You got War. Who's Pestilence?
Oh, it would be
Pestilence
Storm.
or Famine.
Pestilence.
Or Famine. Famine would be
Storm is.
Storm would be either Famine or Pestilence. Someone brought up that like the fact that she can control weather and stop crops from growing, like that would
That's
be
true.
like Famine for sure.
Famine probably. Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder how they would get her though.
Just cause droughts.
But yeah, we're at the end of we finished season 1. It was a banger. I think we all agree that we love it.
Oh, no,
You got
I never
any-
said that.
Okie dokie.
One thing I did want to. This is what I was gonna say in like the first episode that I really enjoy about the whole show as a whole is
Sure.
that they do a lot of adaptations, and it's a lot of like pretty good, like solid. Like they're like a lot of the stuff. I'm like, oh, cool, they did that. That's the The one thing that it's like really cool that I feel like I would want to see the fucking cork board, the like Sunny in Philadelphia style cork board in the back office, is that they take from different events and combine them. For example, the Goblin Queen one, Inferno, is like an event condensed down to one, but also that Cable storyline where they get him and send him to the future. That's from Executioner Song. That's a completely different event, you know? Wolverine's getting his metal ripped out. That's like one sequence from Fatal Attractions, where the Bastion storyline is from a storyline with the Sleeper Sentinels is from Operation Zero Tolerance story. So it's like they're taking from all across like X-Men canon, combining them into
Just mixing all of it.
It's very much like the most streamlined of like from X-Men from 80s to like early 2000s, just streamlining
really
it all.
impressive.
Yeah, like a lot. I guess
That's pretty cool.
it's a lot of the stuff is like, oh, cool, they did that. I've seen that. This, that, you know. It's like things that I'm like, it's written different and it's more streamlined and it's either better or just as good as the comics in most
It's like the meat-
instances.
Wow.
The meat and potatoes of X-Men, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I
guess,
guess this is
but-
one I would say.
But it's delicious.
yeah, well, meat and potatoes are good.
They are,
That's-
but
yeah, I think
it
that's the
sounds
point. Like my
plain,
favorite
but you know what I
Susan.
mean.
Amazing.
No, I was like, those are my favorite 2 foods, or some of. But yeah, also just with some of these events too, I'm just surprised they haven't done them already in the old show. Like I know they did Phoenix Saga, Phalanx Covenant, some others, but I'm like, oh, they didn't do like Inferno. They didn't do Fatal Attractions. Like, wait, what? Like
I
some of
see.
these events.
It's just surprising they haven't already got to this.
Yeah, in the previous show, maybe they did, but I don't. I hadn't seen it.
I mean, it feels like, honestly, the way this one's structured, it feels like they basically had a lot of things they wanted to get through.
Yeah.
Like, the old show was going to get to, and they were like, we need to make sure we hit, like, a lot of these quickly so that we can, like, prove that this is worthwhile and get that second season, like, secured. And then, like, maybe the second season will move a little slower. But, like,
Yeah.
in general, it's like I feel like they're also proving just how like you can make it the new fast-paced like style
Oh, definitely.
of action
Yeah, it's
and still just use a ton of good stuff.
there's so much that happens in just one episode of this series, where in the original I feel like they take a whole season to get through just as many things, you know.
And so much good action too. Speaking of action,
Yeah.
so much
way better than the original. One last question I had for y'all, and this is just like a debate I've seen a lot of: is Morph gay for Wolverine?
Okay.
What do y'all think?
Well, he is.
Oh, 100%.
That's also confirmed.
Oh, it has been? Okay.
Yeah, so can't really be a debate now.
You know what's funny, because I rember
Nice.
when
somebody confirmed
when
it.
Gibbledang and I first saw the first 2 episodes, I remember you being like, a lot of fans are thinking Morph's gay for Wolverine, but I don't really see it. And I was like, watch. And so I watched it, and I was like, yeah, no, I don't really see it. And then like this episode, it's like, no, he's gay, or they're gay for him. So I'm like, okay.
Well, that's because at that point, I think it was like episode 3. Yeah, they had made it where like because I loved I was very conflicted on Morph at the beginning, but they really did win me over. I don't know, like it's nice to see some non-binary representation on the screen.
I mean, just based on that, I'm like, no, yeah, I liked Morph. I think they're one that didn't get an episode to themselves, really, like along with like Sunspot. Yeah. That like not a good,
At most, I think that's because they actually got a whole season to themselves, like which was like season 5 or season 4, because
of the show,
of the original show. Because I guess they
were gay there, or
they were brainwashed by Mr. Sinister, and they were a villain for a little bit, and then they ended up being back on the X-Men, and so now maybe that's why they didn't put too much emphasis on Morph, which is why they didn't put too much emphasis on Wolverine too.
I mean, Wolverine definitely doesn't need it.
But I guess because I've like seen a couple like videos too, but I guess Wolverine was the only one who really showed like not affection but just care for Morph in the original series. So that's why there's like that camaraderie between them.
That makes sense.
But it does seem like that like throughout the series there is that growing kind of affection / attraction from Morph to Wolverine. Which I'm like, damn, it's I wonder how they're gonna play with that, and if they're gonna make it be where like, Morph has this unrequited love that he can't get over. That meanwhile you see like Wolverine pairing up with someone else, So I think that's gonna be interesting. But for sure, Morph loves Wolverine. In the first half of it, it seemed like a flirtatious friendship more than anything, but then the latter half they just kind of like really are like, no, he loves him, and he doesn't know how to tell him. Yeah, he doesn't know how to tell him until the very end, where Wolverine's comatose, and Morph is like, I can't tell you this as myself, but let me tell you this as someone who you could hear it from. I love you, Logan. You better pull through. And Morph tells him that as Jean Grey.
Yeah. I think the beginning part, too, it feels flirtatious friendship probably because Wolverine doesn't reciprocate. So it's like clear, So I could see maybe that's why
it's like that funny kind of like, I'm flirting with my friend.
Wouldn't it be funny for you
straight-laced and
like kisses and stuff, right?
Not like haha. It's not gay to kiss the homeboys, haha. But then it turns out, it is gay to kiss that homeboy.
Yeah.
Oh well, I don't know who you guys are quoting because I'm like Morph would straight up be like, "Huh, kiss me." Like I don't know if I don't know if you guys are playing it coy. Because like Morph would not be. Play it coy at all. More would be like, all right, I'm Jean Grey, do you want to kiss me?
Well, that's the other thing too, is Morph, I imagine, is also just like, the only way you would want me is if I'm Jean and not me, like, and that's something that would be cool to like look into.
I'm sure Morph has their own identity issues with that too, with like self-confidence.
I don't that's hard because I feel like I think reverse, mainly in the fact that like Morph used to be a more male representing character with like a human, like a male
face.
human face with like hair and whatever, but now they go to being this like completely androgynous kind of like ambiguous being. So I guess in my mind that makes me think that they're more, comfortable in their skin, I guess.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's the beauty of interpretation. Sure. I definitely think that morph. I love morph. I love morph for their representation. I like the idea of their unrequited love. I think that's going to be tragic, and I'm interested to see how that plays out. It's funny to see the fan base be like, no, Wolverine can't have anybody gay attracted to him, but it's like, dude, chill out. Also, Wolverine's 200, so he probably blew some dick time here and there, so
yeah,
he was around in the 80s.
It's all the same people complaining about the same shit.
Yeah.
Both 80s.
Yeah, but yeah.
But yeah, y'all got anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea. We should just I'll let everybody know if they need to find me, GymleaderNate on everything. Make sure if you have anything that you need to tell us about X-Men, you can contact us.
Anything.
No dumb idea at Gmail. Anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be interested actually hearing other people's thoughts on X-Men. What's your favorite X-Men? What's your the one that got you in? Whether it's a movie, game, comic, whatnot. And you can find me at Dala.art on Instagram. And then I'm gonna also plug the Tower of the Fool, which is the band of the gentleman that made our theme song. So if you just go check them out. I feel like they have a lot of cool music coming out, new song, new album coming out. I think it might be out by the time this episode's out actually. So give that, a little follow and listen on the Spotify. If you don't like it, just keep playing it, but mute your phone. So, keep it going. Just play the music in the background. Yeah. But yeah, those will be my plugs.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Gibbledang here. Go ahead and follow me at Gibbledang on gmail.com. Or wait, what? Go ahead and email me. Yeah, follow me at gmail.com. Email me at gmail.com or go ahead and follow my Instagram at Gibbledang. I plan on making some X-Men stuff. I have been painting again, so look forward to that. I am going to give a shout out to Bo DeMaio. He is the writer, the showrunner. He
nice.
Almost coordinated everything for X-Men 97 Series 1. A really profound series that just hit a lot of just really good points for me. Something that I genuinely loved. I'm going to shout him out. I'm going to shout his OnlyFans out because
nice.
he has an OnlyFans, Bo DeMaio. And honestly, that might be a little rumor. That might be the reason that he got fired from Disney.
Oh, I was about to say don't tell Disney, but I guess they already know.
No, that should be no reason why anybody
bullshit.
should be fired.
No, yeah.
It's bullshit.
It's the same thing with James Gunn.
They made a very exactly. They made a very profound piece of media that should be cherished and just praised. And so check them out, check all of their other works out, check their OnlyFans out, and that's all.
Interesting.
That's all I gotta say.
Fair enough.
Snake, jumping out. I'm on a.
Oh yeah, wait. Let me think of one. Paft. Haha, Paft.
Hey, Morph, you think I could turn into Jean Grey for a second?
But keep the dick.
What?
No problem. You didn't need to do. Oh God, but with clothes on. Jesus Christ.
I just needed to ask her a question for a second.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm like, oh my God, that's so presumptuous.
Yeah, Morph turns naked and bends down, the usual.
Like this.
No,
God.
This is normal.
Not like that time. Not like that time. That was that's our private time, Morph.
Yeah,
That's our private time.
not here. Shit, Scott's shit. Stop.
No dumb idea. No dumb